Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Cotton Grower Magazine's Cotton Companion Podcast. This is Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, alongside my colleague and good friend Beck Barnes. And I'm pretty sure that wherever you live and work, you've just come through some cold, tough weather, especially those of us here in the Cotton Belt states. Mother Nature simply could not hold back in dropping snow, ice, and some sub-zero temperatures to help us get 2024 off to a chilly start. Beck, how'd you survive?
Yeah, man, it was tough. And I know that, we weren't the only ones who got some of this cold, what do they call it? Whatever it was, super cold snap. I mean, it was like zero, into the negatives here in Memphis, Tennessee, of all places. So, and I know that north of here, I got buddies in St. Louis, it was like well below zero. Man, it was tough. I tell you what, it was the Sunday before the MLK holiday. So that's Sunday, Monday, the 14th and 15th. And I had gone down to the Delta to do some deer hunting, and wife got on the phone and said, the weather's coming, you better beat it here. And so, I started the 2-hour drive up 55, and not 55, rather, Highway 61 through the Delta up to Memphis. And the weather is arriving as I'm driving, like around through Clarksdale. And man, it was treacherous. Like, it was hairy. I'm like creeping along at 40 miles an hour for, what should be a 2-hour drive is more close to 3.5. And Jim Cantori was in Oxford I think that Monday or Tuesday, and he did that same drive that I'm talking. He drove up to Memphis from Oxford, and he mentioned on his show, he's like, that was the hairiest drive. He follows weather all around. He's like, I've driven on a lot of sketchy weather situations. He goes, that was the sketchiest we've done. Anyhow, it wasn't great road-wise all across the Mid-South area, and I know in other parts of the belt.
Yeah, well, it's well documented how much you enjoy cold weather, Beck. So
I am not I come from a tropical people. I don't do the cold. I'm not going to do it.
Well, thankfully, as we're recording today, this snow is rapidly melting away. We've got some warmer temperatures and some rain. In some cases, a lot of rain coming. All of that has moved in, and considering a good portion of the Texas and Mid-South areas, we're still experiencing some high levels of drought. All of this New Year moisture should be beneficial in busting some of those drought conditions, as well as helping replenish some of our waterways, especially the Mississippi River. All that would be great as we start looking ahead to a new planting season. But for this episode, we're going to turn our attention to agricultural technology, and we're going to take a look at some of the new tools and apps that are available to growers and consultants to help them with data processing, planning, and production management. Our colleague Matt Hopkins, who is senior online editor for Meister Media's agribusiness division, tracks all of the latest and greatest ag tech for our company, and he's recently published his updated list of the best mobile apps for agriculture, and that's something he's been monitoring and compiling for more than a decade. He's going to join us in just a few minutes to discuss his latest list and some other technical points of interest to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's right. Can't wait to hear that, Jim. But first, our sponsor partner, the American Cotton Shippers Association, they've got a brief message they'd like to share.
The American Cotton Shippers Association, also known as ACSA, is a trade association primarily made up of cotton merchants founded in 1924. ACSA members manage the majority of the world's cotton trade, providing services of merchandising, delivery logistics, and risk management to their customers. ACSA is proud to be celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Join them in Scottsdale, Arizona in June 2024 for their centennial celebration event.
All right, thanks to our friends at ACSA for that message and for their support. Now, we do have one quick item of interest to share from the Cotton Grower News Desk, and that is that we want to offer our congratulations to Mr. Jason Moss of Stinnett, Texas, who is the recipient of the 2023 Joseph J. O'Neill Cotton Marketer of the Year Award. That's sponsored by the good folks at BASF. Jason and his partner Chris Bonner farm 8,000 acres in the Texas Panhandle northeast of Amarillo, including more than 2,000 acres of cotton. Now, he grew up on a family farm in west central Illinois, which he also still farms, and has spent more than 15 years in marketing consulting with growers in multiple commodities. As you can tell, he's got an interesting story. You can read more about Jason's story at cottongrower.com. and in the February issue of Cotton Grower Magazine. And you can listen for an interview with him in an upcoming episode of this podcast, The Cotton Companion.
Now we'd like to welcome our colleague and resident ag tech expert, Matt Hopkins, back to the Cotton Companion. Matt, how you doing? Things thawing out for you up there in Northeast Ohio?
I'm doing well, Jim. Yes, things are starting to thaw out here in Ohio, and it's great to be back on your show.
Well, I appreciate it. And, you know, it's been a couple years since we had you on to talk about your apps list, and I venture to say it's safe to say that list has changed quite a bit since then. My first question, and just for our audience's sake, how long have you been compiling this list of best ag apps, and how have those apps kind of evolved over the last few years?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I've been compiling the list since 2010 on CropLife.com. So I guess about 14 years now. And I never intended to make this an annual list, but it had such strong interest back then, and it still does today. It continues to really resonate with our audience. So it's been great to dig in and research all the new and updated apps every year. But as you mentioned, the apps really have evolved since I first started that list. If you look over the past 15 years, the evolution of app development has been quite incredible. Developers really have created better versions of those apps that were first launched in the early days of the app stores. Initially apps were simple to use. They offered some basic functions like calculation, record keeping, but that was about it. And then developers started to add more and more functions to stand out from the crowd. But unfortunately for users, though, that often led to feature fatigue. So, what began as a useful, focused app had too many extra features over time. So, fortunately, we kind of got into a new era of app development, and that's a good thing. Developers are doing one thing and doing it well now. So we're really seeing a trend towards app integration, which is really becoming quite popular in agriculture. You're seeing more ag tech companies who are looking to partner with other app providers to integrate their offerings. So this has ultimately led to better results and improved productivity for the user. So that's kind of where we're at today with apps.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. You talk about, not intending to see something like this turn into an annual event. And just, we can certainly identify with that when it comes down to our cotton acreage survey. Two guys with just a basic knowledge of the industry trying to predict where cotton acres are going to fall.
And a rudimentary understanding of math.
Very rudimentary understanding
Yeah.
of it. So, but again, it's fun. It's good. It's good. Good points of discussion with the industry. But anyway, I digress. Now, in this article, in your latest article, you mentioned how artificial intelligence is starting to have a big impact on app development. Can tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, AI is booming in a lot of industries, as you know, Jim, in fact, and agriculture really is no different. If you consider how spending on AI technologies in ag is expected to grow from 1.7 billion in 2023, so last year, to 4.7 billion in 2028. And that explosion in AI is having a huge impact on app development. And really the biggest beneficiary of using AI for apps is the data itself. AI is allowing apps to connect and analyze much larger data sets than it could without it. For example, now you have apps that can tie together weather data, machinery data, IoT sensor data, satellite imagery, and it really kind of creates a much more robust analysis than ever before.
Looking ahead for this year, any trends in AI and apps that we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think one area that will really start to benefit from AI is sustainability. As sustainable farming practices become more and more important, we'll start to see more AI-powered apps that help users optimize their resources and minimize that environmental impact. These apps will help guide growers on their sustainable practices, such as helping them reduce their chemical usage, helping them with water conservation and soil health management. So, then there's another area that I think will certainly benefit and from AI this year and beyond, and that's precision agriculture. We'll likely see apps that offer much more advanced predictive analytics, allowing the farmer to make those real-time data-driven decisions on everything from resource allocation to crop management, pest control, you name it. I think the sky's the limit on what AI is going to do for that precision ag app.
If I'm hearing you right, Matt, it sounds like you're saying that it's effectively AI can be utilized almost in a consultation role and advisement based on data that it's collecting and analyzing. Am I hearing that accurately?
Yeah. Because it's taken so many data points, it's providing that analysis almost as an advisory role. You're right, Beck.
Yeah. I know you mentioned sustainability when discussing AI. There so many of our guys, going way off script here. Forgive me, Jim. But so many of our guys are like 4th, 5th, 6th generation, 6 maybe pushing it. But this land has been in their family for generations. And that is by definition sustainable, right? I mean, they've been on the same ground. They've been doing it sustainably for 100 years. And so they are doing what we now call sustainable practices in terms of reducing water and lighter touch on the land in various ways. But what I hear them say is that the cumbersome part is cataloging that stuff. It's the record keeping and the maintenance and being able to show the difference from 20 years ago when record keeping was done in a manila folder 30 years ago. How is AI helping those guys in that scenario, I guess, is my long rambling question.
Again, I think it gets back to streamlining the whole process, and AI is just part of that, taking the manual process out of it and just providing actionable outcomes, to be able to input that information more seamlessly, I guess.
I got you. Sorry for throwing you a curve there.
That's what we do on this podcast. We love to throw curveballs.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've got this year on your list, you've got more than 30 apps that you have looked at and evaluated. Can you talk about a few of them that really impressed you, as well as maybe some that growers and consultants should definitely be working with on a regular basis?
Yeah, sure thing. Since we've been talking about AI, I will share a couple of AI-powered apps with your audience that were on the list. The first is called Orbit, and Orbit is an AI-driven field scouting app that was developed by a startup called Doctor, and that's spelled Doktar. And this app uses satellite-based remote sensing technology to allow for real-time monitoring of crop health. And Orbit delivers high-res satellite imagery on a near daily basis, so it makes it a lot easier to identify any anomalies in the field quickly. So basically, it's using AI. Orbit is able to pinpoint problem areas and automatically notify users. So that's one app. But another one I like to mention is Ag MRI from Intellinair, which has really received a lot of great reviews in the App Store. So essentially, this is a crop intelligence app that alerts you of what's happening in your field. It's ideal for farmers, agronomists, crop specialists. So Ag MRI is an AI platform that combines ultra high-res imagery with machine learning and computer vision to deliver a complete row-level detailed view of every acre in every field all season long. So it's really a slick mobile app. It provides color-coded sortable alerts to make you aware of those yield-killing pressures like weeds and low emergence and nutrient deficiencies and many others. So it's definitely worth downloading, and I highly recommend it. And just one other one I'll bring up is the John Deere Operations Center. It's probably the most popular one. Whenever I ask experts to kind of share their favorite app, they always come back with that one because not only is it John Deere, but it's integrated with so many other apps, and I think that's why it's so popular. So those are the ones I'll share with your audience. But if they want to learn about those apps or 30 of the other apps I wrote about, they can visit croplife.com and search for agriculture apps. And I'll be adding new apps to that list throughout the year, so they can be sure to check for updates.
Okay. Are all these apps free to download, or are there some costs involved with some?
There are some that are subscription based, and I would say the majority of them are free though, and then they have like a paid version in addition to that. So you have to kind of wade through those, but most of them have a free version of it.
Yeah, all right. Now, Matt, you mentioned the John Deere Operations Center, so I'm going to tie a bow in our interview here. But first, I'm going to start with a rambling anecdote. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to this past summer. I took my kid up to Lake of the Ozarks with some friends of ours. They have a cabin up there. It's late at night. We put the kids to bed. Everybody's on the patio. I may have an adult beverage in my hand. It's very dark at Lake of the Ozarks. I'm looking up into the night sky. And off in the distance, in this little corner of the sky, I see these lights that are like repetitive. They start at one point A and they zoom across the sky and they blink out at point B, and they're way up in space. And this is happening so repetitively in the same spot that I realize this is not a shooting star. And it's dawning on me gradually over the course of a couple of minutes, like I am seeing a UFO, and I'm kind of freaking out about it. Okay. I'm going, people are going to think I'm crazy. How do I tell people about this? I'm going to be the UFO guy now. People are going to think I'm weird. Like I kept it to myself. I was like, this is insane. I am a UFO guy now. I just saw the Martians. And so naturally, I get home from the lake. I've kept this to myself, and I go do what I always do. I go to Google to look up what this could have possibly been. And after some digging, I discover people have taken video of this exact phenomenon before. It's Elon's Skylink satellites. They do this, and people all over the world have had the same reaction. And but it's like been confirmed. This is Elon's Skylink. So, roundabout way of bringing us back home here. Just this past week, we heard that John Deere may have a little partnership with Elon going forward, a strategic partnership with SpaceX to expand rural connectivity to farmers through their satellite communications. That could certainly have some far-reaching implications for farmers, not just here, but around the world, especially when it comes to precision and precision ag practices. So I know that you had a story about this. This just broke this past week, I believe. And I know that you have bylined a story about it. You've reviewed the details of the announcement. Can you just tell us here in this early response to this news item that just happened, this partnership, what does it mean for ag as we move forward?
Yeah. Anytime Elon Musk partners with the largest ag equipment company in the world, it's gonna be headline news, right? So yeah, if you haven't heard, John Deere announced last week that, a deal with SpaceX to expand rural connectivity to farmers through satellite communications. So, like you mentioned, Beck, using the Starlink network, this solution will allow farmers with poor internet connection or really no internet connection at all to fully leverage precision ag technologies, which is still so critical. Even as broadband has grown over the years, it's still really lacking in some areas. In fact, I just saw a study that 30% of acres farmed in the U.S. still don't have sufficient internet connectivity, according to some estimates. So, this is going to go a long way in helping close that gap even further. But yeah, just a little bit more about that deal. According to Deere, the solution is going to connect both new and existing machines to high-speed satellite internet, and essentially that's going to enable technologies like autonomy, real-time data sharing, and remote diagnostics, all of which will help the farmer minimize their downtime, be more efficient, and ultimately make them more profitable. In this, like you said, this solution is going to be available in a limited release in the U.S. and Brazil starting in the second half of this year. So really, yeah, stay tuned for that. And again, it's exciting news in the world of ag tech that we will be certainly following in the months ahead.
Yeah, there's always something, and I'm sure, Beck. I'm just thinking, listening to your story, I'm not sure that just one adult beverage was involved in that situation at all.
I didn't know what was going. A lot of thoughts running through my mind in that moment.
It
Well,
makes me want to go to the Lake of the Ozark, though.
Yeah, yeah. It's dark enough. You see cool stuff.
Go down and do some satellite gazing.
There you go.
And people watching.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, I mean, there, of course, that. But you could go. To be sure, I'm not crazy. You could Google this. Like, people see this, have seen this phenomenon. It's his satellites.
The more I learn about space, the Starlink Connect, it's a bunch of little satellites. It's a constellation. So yeah, what probably looks like stars is really that satellite network.
Yeah, and they, like, whatever they were doing, moving, they were zooming across the sky. You know, you think, is this a drones? My God, but it's I mean, it's the distance you're gauging a dark sky, but like, no, this is in space. Anyhow, yeah, it was crazy. I'm not crazy. Okay, let's put this. That's gonna be the disclaimer. That's gonna be the blurb of this episode. Before you listen, understand that part's not crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is really starting to sound like the plot of an early James Bond movie.
Maybe, could be.
Anyway, as Matt mentioned, if you're interested in seeing his entire list of the best agricultural apps for 2024, as well as his breakdown of the this John Deere SpaceX partnership, you can find both of those online at croplife.com, and we certainly encourage you to take a look at that. So, Matt, with that, big thanks for joining us again. We're not going to wait as long next time. We'll kind of keep things. We'll monitor and see what you have, any additions to this list, and maybe check back in with you later this year.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, guys, and I look forward to joining you guys soon.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, great, appreciate it.
So, all right, that's going to be it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. Again, we want to thank our colleague, Matt Hopkins. Boy, he's sharp. He's a sharp fella. We want to thank him for sharing his ag tech expertise with us today. Thank you, too, to the American Cotton Shippers Association for their participation and sponsorship of the Cotton Companion podcast. And, of course, as always, we want to say thank you, dear listener, for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you did like what you heard, please be sure, spread the word, tell your farming buddies and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
Cotton Companion podcast is produced twice monthly by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, he's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks for the next episode of Cotton Companion. Until then, stay warm, stay dry, and stay safe.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer